Hi everyone, welcome to the CD Cave. I'm Jack Burial. Today I decided to do my top 10 back-to-back albums. So that's two albums that follow each other that I find were just as good as the other. Often when a band puts out an album, the one before, the one after lacks a little bit. In this case, I find all of these are equally as good. So before we get into that, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe, hit like, or leave a comment down below. I would really appreciate it. It would help my channel grow. So to start at my number 10, I went with AC/DC, Highway to Hell, and Back in Black. These are both great albums. Back in Black, I find, is a little better than Highway to Hell, but both equally as good. And what's strange about these two back-to-backs is that there's two different singers, which is not often you see that on two great albums with different singers. So that's my number 10. At my number 9, I went with Def Leppard, Pyromania, and Hysteria. Both great album. Hysteria I rate a little bit higher than Pyromania, but this is definitely when Def Leppard were at their peak, and they are both great listens if you like Def Leppard. At my number 8, I went with one of my favorite bands, Uriah Heep, The Magician's Birthday, and Demons and Wizards. Both equally as good. I think I rate Demons and Wizards a little bit higher, but not by much. And Magician's Birthday, the title track, is an 11-minute masterpiece. It's a great, great, great song. Sunrise is also good. And this one too is good. It's got Traveling in Time and the Wizards on this. Easy Living was a big hit. Two great Uriah Heep album. At my number 8. Going for my number 7, I went with Alan Parsons Project. Eye in the Sky and The Turn of a Friendly Card. Rating The Turn of a Friendly Card a little bit higher, but equally both great albums. And these two I listen to quite frequent, and two great albums. At my number 6, I went with the great Canadian band Saga, Worlds Apart, and Heads or Tails. Both albums are equal. It's hard to pick one over the other. I listen to both equally, and great Saga, and they're still putting out great albums to this day. Saga. At my number 5, I went with Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell, and The Mob Rules. This featuring Ronnie James Dio on vocals on both these albums. These are the two follow-ups after Never Say Die, and both great albums. I think I rate Highway, Heaven and Hell a little bit higher, but these I play these albums a lot still to this day. Well, I usually play the CD now, but used to listen to the vinyls, and great Black Sabbath albums there. And my number 4, Boston, their debut and Don't Look Back. It's hard to keep any Boston CDs out of any top 10, really, especially their debut. But these both great albums. The debut rates a little higher, but both great Boston albums, and still to this day a good listen. They've aged well with time. Next at my number 3, I went with Kansas, Left Overture and Point of No Return, both with Steve Walsh on vocals. And I rate Left Overture a little bit higher, but not by much. But I love the song Cheyenne's Anthem on this is a great song. And of course, it's got Carry On My Wayward Sons on this, and this one here has Dust in the Wind, and both great Kansas albums. At my number 2, I decided to go with Genesis, Foxtrot, and Selling England by the Pound. These are early Genesis albums, both featuring Peter Gabriel on vocals. And I have a hard time picking which one I prefer. At times, they kind of jiggle back and forth, but usually I go with Selling England by the Pound. But they're both great Peter Gabriel era Genesis albums. And before I name my number one, is one other band that I tried to fit in there, and I couldn't fit, so I guess they would come in at 11, but I just want to mention them, which is the Van Halen 1984 and 51 and 50. It's like the AC/DC, both with different singers, Sammy Hagar and David Lee Roth, but both equally as good too. These two are really good. Just to mention these. But as my top back-to-back, and it was my favorite back then and still my favorite today, it's from my favorite band, Styx, Grand Illusion and Pieces of Eight. I definitely can't go wrong with these two albums. Grand Illusion rates a little bit higher for me just because of my favorite song from the band is on here, The Grand Illusion. But Pieces of Eight too is also a great album. I listen to both equally. Yeah, great albums. So I hope you enjoyed the video. And until next time, take care of yourselves.